spend 5 days doing something and you don't get a winner at the end of it. You know, you're joking, mate. You know, so it's a throwback, an anachronism. Some people say, but I think that's part of its charm. The fact that it hasn't really changed that much since Ivo Bly was played. It hasn't really changed a great deal.
Have you ever come across circular chess?
No,
that's interesting. It's a circular ball.
Don't mind me.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's your school, it's not mine.
Don't want to break it.
With the Cobham Hall Heritage Trust, which sort of looks after the historic house side of the thing. He's actually stepped down. He's not well, actually, bless him.
No.
It must have been, and they must have, been absolutely overjoyed when the M25 was built.
You just, I suppose, you just take it for granted now that it's not.
Yeah, it's stupid o'clock, isn't it? So where will this video go? Where will this film
Well,
go?
it's up near, I think, Arrington's, Sandy, that sort
Yeah,
of area.
yeah, I know. Sandy, it's a lovely film. They live over in Hereford now.
Because we went
So you should sit down and do this on your website.
People think, well, you have to live somewhere. And again, I don't think people know. I suppose they think about, yes, he was titled, rather than getting bored, he had to straight home somewhere. He just happens to be here, and of course Kent has been one of the sort of premier cricket counties for a long time. He says the national cricket, I imagine, has been played here for many years, but the big association with the creation of the Ashes is that a man called Ivo Bly, who was the 8th Lord Darnley, he happened to be captain of that English cricket team that played against Australia in this country and lost that match, and then was captain of the team that went back to Australia to try and regain English honour. So he was very, very involved. So cricket was played here, but he was obviously personally involved as an England cricket captain. And the link to the Ashes becomes even more so that one of the ladies who burnt the bale, a lady called Florence Morphy, ended up marrying Ivo Bly and becoming, as she's known in Cobham history, the Australian Countess. The Times published a mock obituary of English cricket after their defeat by the Australians, and the Ashes grew out of that, really. The story is that some Australian ladies, partly as a joke, presented this little urn that originally had, I believe, contained perfume that was supposed to contain the ashes of one of the bales in that match that England had lost, and that became known as the Ashes, and that's where the little prize started. Well, originally they weren't designed as a sporting trophy at all. They were designed, as I say, as a bit of a joke, and they became a sort of love token, a token of the romance between Florence Morphy and Ivo Bly, and she gave it to him as a present, and he bought them back as a memento, and ultimately, because they became married, they sat on the mantelpiece, I presume, here in Cobham Hall, just as a token of their affection. I believe it originally contained perfume. I don't know that for sure, but that's the most commonly held belief, and I've no reason to believe that's not true. And as I say, for many years, it just sat here on the mantelpiece. It was only when Ivo Bly died, he predeceased his wife by some considerable time, that she then presented it to the MCC. Quite why she did that and what her intention was, I don't know, but that's how it ended up in the hands of the MCC and has become this supremely iconic sporting trophy ever since.
Well, I think the most commonly held view is that the contents of the urn are actually the ashes of a bale that was used in the match where Australia won, that were then burnt, as it were, cremated, fitting in with the mock obituary in the Times. But there are other stories. Some say it was the cover of a cricket ball used in that match. Others say it was part of the veil used by one of the ladies who was watching the game. The fact is, we're not completely sure, and I quite like the fact. I think it's lovely to have that slight air of mystery, and frankly I hope we never actually do completely conclusively find out what's inside it. I think that little air of mystery just helps add to the mystique of the whole thing. It was kept here, as I said, for many years, and one story is that when it was stuck on the mantelpiece, one of the servants in the house was cleaning and accidentally knocked it off, and the top came off and the contents spilled out, and the person, desperate to try and make amends, just took some ash out of the fireplace and popped that into the urn, put the top back on and hoped no one would notice. So maybe it's just ashes from the fire that's inside there these days, who knows. But I say I'm quite glad that we don't actually conclusively know. I just think it adds to the mystery and the mystique of the whole thing.
The opposite, there was one of those things that told you the exterior temperature, it's at minus 14. I thought, well, that explains why I'm a bit chilly. It was a fairly quick ceremony.
Every 2 years, you'll get the camera put up on. Yeah. And so when they send you the thing, I told you that is done. Opportunity whilst you're here. And yeah, we'll coming back in here. And then
So in 1882, Australia beat England in England for the first time, and the press had a field day. They called it the death of English cricket, and there were jokes about the body being cremated and the ashes taken to Australia. That winter, England went back to avenge the defeat, and as a joke, over Christmas, when they were being entertained in Melbourne, the England captain was given a little ashes urn by a group of Melbourne ladies.
What does it actually symbolise, this particular urn?
Well, I think in this day and age of very serious sport and sometimes bad-tempered sport, this urn symbolises the friendship, the conviviality and the humour that has always been associated with sport, given as a joke at a house party by the ladies to the England captain. There was an apocryphal story, or so we thought, about the urn being broken at Cobham Hall. Anyhow, when asked to take it out to Australia in 2002, the urn was x-rayed and was in fact found to be broken. When we finally restored it in 2005, there were strict instructions to the restorer that actually the idea of the ashes had become far greater than what was actually in it, and the MCC committee gave strict instructions not to open the urn. I think that for an article that is essentially so worthless, it's a piece of terracotta on a much later turned wooden base with a few pieces of newspaper stuck to it with glue. The idea of the ashes and whether they're actually wood ashes or coal ashes is not that important. I absolutely think so. In this day and age of multi-million-dollar artworks, it would perhaps be intriguing to see it go up for auction and whether Australia would buy it. But actually, essentially, yes, it's so hard to value because there is only one Ashes urn. I think it'll be a very interesting series. In such an open contest, one thinks that home advantage may play a part, but history has a habit of turning up some odd results. So here's hoping.